Hello and welcome back to Matsuribayashi. Hey, now I don't have to announce what chapter we're on, because there's no more chapters left, dude. Uh, Back to the new mechanic of connecting fragments. Yeah. Dude, I remember in Mina Roshi, I was like, during the read through, I was theorizing what they were going to do with Matsuri Bayashi, and well, I was just saying that start because I didn't know the name, but um, and I was kind of gauging like how ambitious they would be, and obviously my predictions are wrong, but like they have been. I think this is like literally the most ambitious you can be for like the finale of such a long series to like completely change the format into this is honestly like it's like brave and I mean I think it's pretty cool. I kind of wonder like how if this arc was like polarizing on release or whatever, because I can understand if people are like expecting, hyped for a visual novel and then it changed into sort of something like this where it's more I mean, it's still a visual novel, but you're like collecting pieces, so it's not like a nice flow, I guess. I mean, again, I don't mind. It's kind of cool, but yeah, it's interesting though. I'm wondering also if there's like gonna be like something after you do all this. I mean, I guess it kind of said, but obviously it can't be a full story because each of these fragments took like 15 minutes. It's like definitely like a couple hours, if not like a lot, a lot more than a couple of hours. So they definitely can have like a full arc after this, I think, unless this arc is just massive. But yeah, it's pretty cool. So let's we only did 2 fragments. I'm pretty again, I'm pretty fatigued because this was a work day. I usually don't record on work days, but I'm so like my backlog is pretty much non-existent. So until I can kind of fix my backlog again, which during the high I was like recording 2 videos a day, so I didn't have to record Thursdays and Fridays. But yeah, it won't be like a massive episode, but we'll probably hit like at least 3 or 4. So we did 2. We did Irie backstory and some Tomotaki beginning of the relationship backstory. You know I love it, dude. Hit me with some more. But yeah, so we have options. I mean, it was kind of like showing that Irie talking about like how he kind of feels uneasy about Takano, but he kind of sees himself in her a bit because of his past procedures with lobotomies and stuff, and then taking risks, or I guess doing a little bit of unethical things for the better of humanity in the long term. Then you just get this Jiro and Takano flirting in the rain under a bus stop. Good stuff. So we have options though. And it's interesting the requirements, because Jiro Tomotaki's slight fever, I'm pretty sure it's this. Like when I read this first, I'm like, oh, is it like when he's first contracting the Hinamizawa syndrome? But no, it's actually he said he got a slight fever, so I think it's that. I think we can do this, which might actually be a nice flow. Now, if you see more than 2 things, we can do this. Maybe a Hanyu story. Satoshi. I feel like I kind of just want to go with like, to create the best flow, I think going with Irie and Tomotaki stuff for a bit. I just want to like scout out the options. We have Satoko, I know that. Satoshi Hojo's awareness of his sins is required. Oh, formation of the club. Nice. So this is... I don't know what this is. I think this is when you finish everything. And these are like how you win. But I'm not fully sure. Okay. Let's, oh yeah, we didn't check the... I don't think we need it. Let's do, that's the damn stuff. Let's try Irie background first. See how that goes. It works. I wanted to become a doctor ever since I was little. Doctors make a lot of money. People look up to doctors. I think those are the kind of reasons I had. So when I played with my friends, I always acted like a doctor. I cleaned their wounds and applied ice packs when my friends sprained their ankles, using what I learned from household medical books. Everyone, including me, believed that I'd become a doctor one day. My family was poor, so they praised me for that goal. They told me that I need to study a lot to become a doctor, so they borrowed some pseudo-medical books from the local library for me. The rental fees weren't cheap. So I would speed read one book in a day, and the next day, my parents would go back to the store to exchange it for a different book, saying they accidentally borrowed a book they already borrowed before. By doing so, my parents borrowed 2 books for the price of 1. Of course, now I know those books were rather useless, but they were highly motivational just the same. My neighbors called me Dr. Kyosuke-kun, and I always picked for class health officer at school. I was always picked. Even my teachers helped me with the classes I need to take to become a doctor. Of course, in reality, becoming a doctor isn't as easy as it might seem. I don't think it seems easy at all. I had to study diligently, and the path was most definitely rough. To become a doctor, one must attend college. Since my family was poor, I was told I wasn't allowed to go to an expensive private school. So I had to be admitted to a national public university. My grades weren't bad, but the administration rate to a national public universities is very marginal. Especially since I wanted to go to a medical school, my chances were even smaller. I studied like crazy. My only driving force was my childhood dream of becoming a doctor. The dream of becoming a doctor had to be looked up by everyone, kept me going. And I was admitted. I wasn't at the top of the list, but I made it in. I was finally at the starting point of making my childhood dream come true. My parents were thrilled. Neither my father nor my mother went to college, so they were proud of their son getting into a public medical school. They invited our relatives over to celebrate. Although it was public university, tuition wasn't cheap, but they started an extravagant celebration anyway. My father didn't express his emotions much. He always kept a straight face. He rarely voiced his opinions or took initiative on anything. My mother took care of everything, and he showed up last and left without saying a word. He was the typical stern and silent Japanese father of the time. That's why I was surprised to see him shedding tears of joy, and I cried along with him. Aw, this is so sweet. He went around to all my relatives while repeatedly slapping my back, saying how proud and lucky he was to have a son like me. He bragged about my achievements to all who would hear them. The celebration became my farewell party, and I was about to leave for Tokyo. Also, the song slaps. I love it. My father yelled, "Banzai!" repeatedly at the station as the train pulled away. I was a little embarrassed, but when I could no longer see my father, I could clearly recall the tears pouring down. The days of hellish studying and exams began after that. Some days I was tempted to just give up and submit myself to the lavish lifestyle of the city. But the letters from my family always encouraged me and gave me strength to go on. My dream, then, was to open up my own clinic in my hometown so I could contribute to the region. I never even dreamed of getting involved with brains. Oh. One day I noticed a difference in a letter from my family. The letter said the usual things about how it was at home and asked how I was doing. But the postscript was what caught my attention. Your father's become really violent lately. Sometimes he turns the house upside down, and I don't know what to do. I just couldn't picture him acting viciously. I was extremely surprised. And this stems the... Well, I guess it's probably not the... I mean, it could be the starting point of his theory, but I'm sure there is some medical and scientific reasons for the idea. But basically the idea of all violence and human wrong choices are based on diseases, I think, is like the general thing of whatever it was called. Whatever the theory is called. Did something happen? But in the postscript, my mother said that there's nothing she could think of. My mother and father had been together for a long time. They'd been together since well before I was born. So she noticed things that I couldn't. She couldn't even think of a reason why my father had become so violent. What happened? They got along so well, they were such a lovely couple. When I caused a problem for my mother when I was little, my father only bonked my head with his knuckle. Why was he acting this way towards my mother? Maybe there was some kind of misunderstanding between them. I was going home for the new year. Maybe I could have a good talk with him then. But the situation was a lot more serious than I thought. Oh no. It was so happy, dude. Guess Irie is joining. I mean, I guess it's not really a childhood thing. I was trying to say he's joining the troubled childhood past, but it's more of a troubled young adult. On one cold winter day, I found my apartment door unlocked. I thought someone had broken in, but I found my mother in my apartment with her luggage. That's right. My mother could no longer take my father's fury and came to stay with me. This is bad when people still believed in the proverb, a woman has no place to settle down all her life. It's a rough proverb. She couldn't go back to her own family because they lived in the same region as my father, so she came all the way to Tokyo. I heard about my father's violence from my mother's own lips. She cried, saying she had no idea why such a quiet man changed like that. She said she wasn't ever going back to him. I didn't know what to do. I asked her if she could talk to him one more time, but the bruises on her body told me it was no use. To remember what happened afterwards is too much, so I'll be brief. After my mother left, my father thought she was having an affair and went over to the neighbor's house with a wooden sword. He was arrested. He was released immediately, but he assumed someone in the neighborhood was hiding her, so he did the same thing repeatedly. He eventually reached the point of getting into fights with anyone he saw. It does sound very disease-like, like very unnatural anger. So, yeah. In the end, he picked a fight with some young punks and ended up being beaten to death. Oh god. Whoa, that escalated. I mean, I guess you could see that coming, but... My relatives gave my father a decent funeral, but my mother didn't attend. There's no use beating a dead horse. So nobody said anything negative about my father, but everyone was simply puzzled as to why he changed so much. What I heard from my relatives about my father's final days was a lot stranger than what I heard from my mother. My mother only told me about his sudden rage and violence, but my relatives told me. He also laughed and grew sad. Apparently he displayed several sudden fluctuations of emotion, especially so in his last years. Yeah, that's definitely something. They also told me that he started to complain about headaches after an accident he had. My father was a construction worker. He had hit his head hard on a construction board during an accident at work. He regained his consciousness quickly and seemed fine. But since the accident, he started to have headaches and behave abnormally. What did they call that? Oh man, I forgot. They actually referenced something like this in like one of the early arcs in Higurashi. Oishi and like the autopsy guy. He was talking about how brain, if you'd have like in a situation where someone like hits your head hard enough, you can like, it was basically trying to explain why Tomataki ripped out his throat, and he said, oh, he might have been hallucinating because he had brain damage from a physical, not like a mental thing or whatever, like an external, not an internal thing. So it kind of reminds me of that, I guess. I don't know. I sensed the connection between the accident and my father's changes, so I talked to the professor after I went back to Tokyo. Hifumi's study. But it's not him.
断言はできませんが、その様子から入江君のお父さんに何らかの異常が起こっていた可能性は否めません。その事故の際に脳が傷つき、精神的な変化を起こしたのかもしれませんね。
I think that's what they called it, organic mental disorder.
お父さんの晩年の言動からは、そんな患者さんに多く見られるいくつかの症状が伺えます。
And if you gave him a lobotomy, he wouldn't have acted. Though I don't know, like, they're talking about like some, not the lobotomy everyone pictures when you hear the word where they put it through your eye, like through the brain. So maybe it works differently. I assume it does. It does say that it like ruins some of their memories and emotions, but it's probably not as damaging as the ones in the asylums, you know. Human behavior is created by the brain. And if the brain is damaged, it can cause erratic behavior. In other words, my father wasn't crazy. He was suffering from a disorder.
お父さんの遺体を検視できるなら、脳をよく調べてみるといいでしょう。ひょっとすると腫瘍のようなものが見つかるかもしれません。
My father had already been cremated, so there's no way of knowing. But hearing about his behavior, I knew for sure. That was the only way to explain why such a quiet and gentle man would change. I tried to explain this all to my relatives to regain my father's honor, but hardly anyone understood. If his brain was damaged, he would have been dead. But he was alive and well. So the accident didn't damage his brain. I guess that is like something people would think about, especially back then. Obviously now I think it's much more common knowledge. I think, maybe? At least to me. It wasn't his brain that caused him to change, it was his mind. They simply brushed it off like that. This is the perception most people have about the brain. They don't realize the mind and the brain are connected. Most of the relatives didn't believe me, but there was one person who I really wanted to anyway. That was my mother. As she got older, she grew senile, and she exaggerated the abuse she had to endure. All she did was criticize my father. And every time she ended up crying, lamenting that she married him. They were a lovely couple. We were a great family. That's why I wanted to convey to her that she was misunderstanding the situation with my father. My father's behavior was caused by his brain damage. What he did to her was very sad, but he didn't want to be that way. I told her that he wasn't at fault. But my mother didn't understand. Before she took her last breaths, I begged her to forgive my father. But her final words were, "Please don't bury me next to that man." My father wasn't at fault. He was simply the victim of a brain disorder. You don't complain to a person who's coughing because he has a cold. Well, some people do, but I mean, it does, you know, situation in public, whatever. Because coughing is just a symptom and he should be sympathized with. In my father's case, the symptoms weren't as obvious as a cough. They took the form of changes in personality, which are much harder to recognize. If I studied the brain more, I could have explained it better to my mother so that she could have understood him. Then they could have been a nice couple again in heaven. When I realized that, I cried. And I also realized that there are plenty of people like my father in this world who are suffering from a disorder, yet they are misunderstood and despised for it. And then I found out. I found out about a miraculous cure for such disorders called a lobotomy. Ever since that day, I spent my days learning about the brain so I could help people who are suffering from mental illness. My father is gone, but if he was still alive, I could cure him myself. So he and my mother could reconcile. That's the main reason why I'm here. Dude, that was good, dude. I'm really liking these fragments. I mean, obviously the Tomodachi one was blessed, but this one's good. Dude, I always say this, but the series is really good with background stories. They always just nail it, dude. I wonder what that unlocks. I don't really know. We can do that. I think this is from actually, I don't know. Sounds like it could be from the Irie story too. Alright, I mean, we'll just do the dam, I guess. That does seem a little far in the future, but I don't think we can do anything else. I don't even want to know what the Satoko dissection plan was. I mean, I guess. Oh, well. Actually, I probably do know. But let's do this, I think. Unless there's like a cleaner. It's not this. Oh, wait. Is it? Oh, wait. Did I do it? Okay, never mind. At least it... No! Wait, what did I do? Why is it broken, dude? Did I brick my game? Uh-oh. Health? You know what? Just in case, BRB. I'm pretty sure it doesn't do anything, but just in case I unbricked it. I just wanted to see, dude. Alright, let's do the dam thingy. And we'll save when after we complete, just in case, you know. Damn stuff. Let's go.
Yeah, 遅くなって申し訳ございません。
Hello,
今日
Irie.
はどういうわけか患者さんが多くて多くて。
お疲れ様です、入江兄さん。
Lieutenant Colonel Irie. Tomotoki stood up suddenly and saluted when he saw Irie come into the room.
そのニサというのはどうかやめてください。私は医者です。どうもその軍隊的な階級には馴染めません。せめて所長でお願いします。
了解しました、入江所長。
Tomotoki, of course, knew that Irie didn't like to be called Lieutenant Colonel, so it was something of a joke. They laughed casually together. And on the other hand, Tatsuno looked rather fed up with it. Huh? She couldn't stand hearing the same joke over and over, and was even thinking about talking to Tomotoki about it. Come on, Tatsuno. But she didn't want to hurt his feelings, so she simply never had the chance. I mean, I get it, but it seems very weird. Huh. Maybe it's because of how Tomotoki pronounces it. But she keeps hearing Risa. Lieutenant Colonel in Japanese, Nisa. Ah, there you go. Once she heard it that way, she kept hearing Irie Risa every time Tomotachi said it. When Takano told Irie about it, he had a good laugh. Today was just a simple meet and greet, and tomorrow was the actual meeting. Tomotachi had already arrived, but there would be more specters from Tokyo at the meeting, waiting to hear about the progress that had been made. Ooh.
それはそうと、ダムのことで村中が盛り上がってるみたいですね。
ええ、それはもう村中大変な騒ぎですよ。私も役員として自治体の地元説明会に参加してきたのですが、土星と馬星のそれはもう賑やかな説明会となりました。
Profanities. After the basic Hinamizawa Dam project was announced, the village was consumed with uproar. The government retracted their plans for concessions rather early on. They made their aggressive stance clear. They didn't want the locals to take advantage of them by showing their willingness to compromise. However, that backfired horribly. As they had historical ties with the land, the government's actions only made their bond stronger. Neither the government nor the locals wanted to back down.
ひなみ沢の人は気性が激しいですものね。やっぱり鬼の血が流れてるからなのかしら。
笑い事じゃないですよ。あの説明会に夜中まで付き合わされた方の身にもなってみてください。
それはお気の毒でしたね。
いや、本当に笑い事ではないですよ、富武さん。ダム計画はどうなってるんですか？本当にこの村はダム湖に沈められてしまうんですか？
それについては東京の方でも圧力をかけています。
Not enough, apparently. But I do remember them mentioning they don't actually have a lot of power in the Ministry of Construction side of things.
表向きは騒ぎになっていますが、実際の裏方ではかなり屋台骨がぐらついているはずです。
Oh, okay.
その圧力が早く効くといいんですがね。村は朝から晩まで賑やかで、村人の心もこのところすさんできたように思います。診察に来るお年寄りに捕まってたっぷりと反ダム論争を聞かされる時がありますよ。
付き合わなければいいのに。入江所長は人がいいから。
Come on, Takano.
そうもいきません。
I do. It's kind of funny because I remember people, like older people, talking how Takano was a nice nurse.
私は研究所の所長である以前に診療所の所長でもあります。話を聞くのもケアの一環ですので。
それはとても良いことです。感服いたします。
私は東京の皆さんがうまく圧力をかけてくれて、いずれはダム計画を撤回してくれるものと分かっているからいいですが、村人にとっては先祖代々から住んできた土地を追い出されかねないと本当にすごい騒ぎです。
立ち退けと言われても引っ越せるほどのお金もなく若さもなく、立ち退き保証金の額の釣り上げが狙いだったのかもしれないけど、急にお役所の態度が変わっちゃって全面衝突。こうなってしまったら穏便に決着というのは無理かもしれませんわね。
かつては保証金に納得して立ち退きに応じようという人たちも少しはいたんですが、御三家の園崎家が強硬意見で村人をリードしてましてね、国との対決姿勢を煽っているようなんです。凱旋者みたいなのがよく騒がしくしてますし、ビラやらチラシやら機関紙やらが回覧板と一緒によく回ってきますよ。
ここに住む人にとっては大変な問題ですからね。気持ちはわからなくもありません。
そういう意味では思惑は多少違うかもしれませんが、そんな皆さんのためにもこのダム計画は早く撤回になるよう交渉を進めてほしいものです。
It's kind of stuffed lip sync there, but okay.
撤回されればこの村もすぐに落ち着きのある元の村に戻るでしょうから。
もちろん分かってます。それについては東京の方で交渉を進めておりますので、もうしばらく私どもにお任せください。
東京の方で噂を聞いたんですけれど建設省の方になかなかうまく圧力をかけられるコネクションがなくて苦労してるとか。
He did seem like a pretty strong-willed guy, so I can imagine.
いや私ごときでは詳しくは知りませんが、水面下調整がうまくいっていないのではという話も少し聞きます。
Takano had powerful people supporting her, but they didn't control all of Japan. There were some things that they excelled in, but also other things that they weren't too good at. Finding a way to put on the pressure onto the Minister of Construction fell into that latter.
冗談抜きでダムができますからここを立ち退いてくださいなんて話には本当にならないんですわよね。
もちろんです。それだけは絶対に問題ありません。時間がかかっているだけですので、皆さんはどうかそこは任せて研究を進めてください。穏便に済ませることができない場合は、最終的な荒領事も辞さないことで意見はまとまっております。
Drastic measures.
荒領事とは何ですか、富武さん。
そこは我々の領分です。入江所長は気にされなくて結構です。
Bro, look at that Tomotaki face. Even has like... Oh yeah, it's like a little wrinkle on the eye. Makes him look extra menacingly.
どうかお任せください。
そうですか。わかりました。よろしくお願いいたします。
大丈夫ですわよ、入江所長。ダム計画は絶対に撤回されますわ。だってそう決まっているんですもの。
It's funny because Rika said the same thing, but I'm pretty sure, well, either Takano knows about the plan, or I think she's just saying that because she believes nothing will stop her from reaching her goal. But it is kind of funny that it's low-key a callback to Himitsubushi. As Takano giggled, Tomotaki laughed too. However, Irie couldn't understand what was so funny, so he felt left out. Irie only understood the meaning of those drastic measures when he examined a young boy he had never seen in the village before. Yes, his run-in. So Irie didn't really have anything to do with it. Which I kind of thought, but it was a little sus at the time. Okay. Let me get a little save in just in case I break it. Which again, I don't think it actually does anything, but if anyone wants to tell me, then that'd be cool. What do we want to do now? Don't have that. Don't have that. Don't have that. Oh wait. Maybe? As we... Oh yes, it did work. Yes, state needed was, okay. Yeah, because I guess the research has stagnated and the plan is to take, corpses. Plus we did the operation plan. That very night, the head of the Furude family, the priest, gathered his wife and Rita together for a family meeting. In Hinamizawa, it was tradition for the three families to gather and discuss the village's issues. So it's hardly unusual for big families like the Sonosaki family and the Kimiyoshi family to have meetings beforehand to sort out opinions among themselves. However, the Furude family had lost its branch family, so there were only 3 of them left. So until that day, they never had a family meeting at all.
どうしたんですか、改まって。ひょっとしてダムに関わるお話ですか？
The dam was the most important issue in the village at the moment. The wife naturally assumed the priest wanted to talk about the dam. For him to gather all of them together like that, it must be a huge decision he had to make. Perhaps he was going to talk about joining the pro-evacuation camp.
いや、ダムの話ではない。だが、この村に関わる、いや、この村のご先祖様たちにも関わる、とても大事な問題だ。
The Furude family has served in the priesthood of Oyasho-sama, the guardian deity of the village, for generations. So for him, the head of the family, to start out that way, it must be something extremely important. Yet he said it wasn't about the dam, so what could he want to talk about?
私は入婿だ。だから、古出家の本当の血を受け継ぐお前と理香にはよく聞いてほしい。お前たちは普通の人間ではないのだ。
Interesting.
僕はお社様の生まれ変わりなのですよ。
I wonder if like Takano's group talked about that, or like how does? I mean, I imagine that's the only way.
リカ、そういうのは口にしてはいけません。あなた、そういう話はリカのいないところでしましょう。それでなくっても、集会所のお年寄りたちがリカに妙なことばかり吹き込んで。
そのお社様の生まれ変わりというのがどうも。
I feel like that might not be the case, though. I mean, that the dad talked with Takano's group. Maybe there is actually like ancient scriptures and stuff, but I don't know.
少し長い話になる。二人ともしばらく黙って私の話を聞きなさい。
The wife had a dumbfounded expression on her face, not knowing what he was going to say, but Rika was completely relaxed, wearing her usual carefree expression. The priest started to talk after his wife calmed down.
この村には大昔からある病気があるのだ。それはこの地にだけある特別な病気。それには
Oops.
この村に住む者が全員かかっている。今この村に住んでいる者だけではない。大昔から住んでいたご先祖様たちもみんなずっとこの病気にかかってきたのだ。
そんな。だって私たちはみんな普通に生活していますよ。この村だけの病気なんて聞いたこともない。
落ち着きなさい。その病気はな、この村にいる限り何も問題はないのだ。だがこの村を出て遠くの地へ行くと発病してしまう。わかるか？
わかるわけないでしょ。何のことだかさっぱり。
お社様のたたりと同じなのです。
Rika said it so calmly while her mother became frustrated.
そうだ。この村から離れるとたたりがあるのと同じなのだ。つまりお社様のたたりだとご先祖様たちが代々恐れてきたのはこの村だけにしかない風土病のせいだったのだ。
そんなことあるわけないです。だって私たちだって時には村を離れることもあるじゃないですか。村の人だって仕事で遠くへ出かける人だっているし、海外に出かける人だって。
うん。それは長い時間を経て病気が徐々に弱まってきたかららしい。だからこのままさらに長い時間をかければ消えてなくなってしまうものだったのだ。だがそれがダム戦争のせいでおかしくなったらしい。ダム戦争で今村中が 熱に浮かされたように興奮している状態にあるのはみんなも分かっているだろう。そういう興奮状態や情緒不安定な状態はこの病気を悪化させてしまうらしいのだ。
よく話が分かりませんけど、つまりこの大昔からタタリだと呼んできたものは全てその病気の仕業だとおっしゃるんですね。
そうだ。お社様の作った決まりは全てこの病気から村人を守るための決まりだったのだ。
そんな、それじゃお社様は神様ではなく病気が正体なんですか？そんなこと古出家代々のご先祖様たちに説明できますか？
落ち着きなさい。お社様の信仰は変わらない。お社様がひなみ沢を見守ってくださることに何の変わりもない。お社様のたたりを再現する病気がこの村には大昔からあったということ、それだけなんだ。
That is true.
そんなのは認められません。そんなこと亡くなった先代や先々代に説明できますか？古出家数百年の伝統に対する、いえお社様に対する冒涜です。そんなことをあなたに吹き込んだのは誰ですか？失礼極まりない。第一、そんな変な病気が実在するという証拠があるんですか？
ある。
それはどんな？誰が？
厚生省と国立感染症予防研究所の方からだ。
There you go.
病原体もすでに特定され、現在治療方法などを研究している最中だという。
So this, I mean, I guess it's not that far in the future, but it, huh? I wonder, like, it does feel like there's a gap, I guess, before, like, I thought, you think there would be, like, some talk about Rita before, like, recruiting her for experiments.
先週実際にその資料や標本などを
But
見
I
せて
don't
もら
know.
った。厚生省の方はこの病気をひなみ沢症候群と呼んでいるらしい。
そんな。
ひなみ沢症候群は普通に生活している分には何も影響のない無害なものらしい。だがひなみ沢を遠く離れたり、精神や情緒が不安定になったりすると発病しやすくなるという。発病すると妄想などに取りつかれ、最悪の場合異常行動に出ることもあるらしい。この病気は戦争中に発見されたんだそうだ。戦地でひなみ沢の兵隊だけ異常な病気を起こすことがあるのに、偉い学者の先生が気がついて研究がずっと進められてきたんだという。
See, it's a little talk and no touch in that message.
その辺の話はだいぶ詳しくしてもらったんだが、難しい内容だったので私の口からはこれ以上うまく説明できん。もし私の説明では納得できんというなら、お前も直接話を聞いてみればいい。私だって最初は何をバカなことを、お社様を冒涜する気かと憤慨していたのだから。その病気を研究するために入江診療所が作られたというんだ。あそこは表向きはただの診療所ということになっているが、実際は病気を調べるための隠し研究所らしい。
秘密で研究しているなんてうさんくさいじゃないですか。
Does sound ridiculous, but sometimes the truth is ridiculous. What can I
それ
say?
も厚生省がやっていることなら堂々とやればいいじゃないですか。
いや、そうはいかんらしい。この病気の実態を把握しないまま存在するという事実だけが不十分な知識で広まってしまったら、病気を持っている人たちはもちろん無関係の人々も勘違いした差別を受けることになる。ひなみ沢の人間は皆怪しげな病気にかかっていて、そのせいでとんでもないことをするかもしれないなどという噂が日本中に知れ渡ったら大変だ。厚生省もそのことを心配していて、 この病気については厳重に伏せた上で治療を目指すらしい。勘違いするな。私たちを見せ物にするというんじゃないぞ。この病気を根絶させ、この村を病気から解放しようとしているのだ。
I mean, at this point of time, this is like a half-truth because they also want to weaponize it, but yeah.
自給自足ができていた大昔ならともかく、現代では村から一歩も出ずに生活など成り立たん。村から出るだけで発病するかもしれない病気など、村人にとってどれほど危険なものかわかるだろう。繰り返しになるが、昨今反ダム戦争で村全体が強い興奮状態にあって、ひなみ沢症候群にとって非常に良くない状態にあるらしい。
もし村人がおかしくなって大変なことをしたら、きっとマスコミがパシャパシャでいっぱいなのです。
Also, it's good to. I didn't really mention it, but yes, we are seeing Rita for the first time. What's up, Rita?
そうだ。
Cute Rita too. This is probably. I mean, if this is a random fragment, then I guess it doesn't matter. But if it was like current time, then this is like Rita without the knowledge of everything from the past fragments.
そうなったからでは手遅れなのだ。
そんないきなり言われても信用できませんわ。本当に相手は国の人？変な詐欺に騙されてるんじゃないですか？
信用できんのも無理はない。先方は研究所はいつでも見に来ていいと言っている。私はもう見せてもらっているが、あれは詐欺とかそういうレベルではない。ゴングラの大病院でもあんな大掛かりな設備はないぞ。お前も私の話に納得できないなら、研究所で詳しい話を聞かせてもらうといい。私よりもっと詳しく説明してくれるだろう。向こうは研究所の説明でも納得できないなら、東京の国立研究所で説明してもいいし、厚生省の本庁舎で直接説明してもいいと言っている。
でも信じる信じないは別にして、それ
古出家は代々お社様の血を受け継ぐと言われている。そして8代続いて女子が生まれれば、その8代目はお社様の生まれ変わりであるとも。
そうですわ。私が7代目、理科が8代目。でもそれとその病気に何の関係があるというんです？
このひなみ沢症候群という病気はある種の寄生虫によるらしい。虫といってもものすごく小さい。人の目には決して見えんくらいに。その虫たちには親分格がいるというのだ。
まさかそれがフルデ家だとおっしゃるんですか？
その親分格の寄生虫は代々フルデ家の直系だけに受け継がれるらしい。つまり先代はお前、今は理科だ。
バカバカしい。そんな話やっぱりおかしいですわ。大体ですね、寄生虫なんてそんな気持ち悪いもの。
True.
だから落ち着きなさい。
Get out of here, parasites.
私では説明が下手だ。専門の人に説明を受けなさい。そして彼らが言うには、この病気の治療を研究するためには親分格の研究が不可欠だというのだ。
嫌です。そんな怪しげな研究まっぴらごめんですし、理科だってそんな研究には関わらせません。
だから落ち着きなさいというのに。彼らの研究ではひなみ沢症候群は村から離れると発病するのではなく、親分格から離れると発病するということらしいのだ。お前も小さかった頃、村人から陣痛力があると言われていたことがあるだろう。遠方に出かけ片頭痛などにかかったお年寄りがお前に払ってもらうとたちまち頭痛が消えたという陣痛力。それこそが親分格の証拠でもあるというのだ。フルデの血には 発病者を救う力がある。それを研究するのは治療薬を見つけるためにもとても重要なことなのだそうだ。
I guess that probably leads to the vaccine.
僕を研究すると村のみんなが助かるのですか？
先方はそう言っている。
その病気は村の全員がかかっているのですか？僕もみんなもさとこも。
村に住む人間全員だけでなく、沖宮に住む親類なども全て含むそうだ。多分何千人という規模になるだろう。それだけの大変な病気だから厚生省がわざわざたくさんの予算を投じて専門の研究所を作ってくれたのだ。
私は反対です。理科をそんな怪しげな研究の生贄にするだなんて。
僕はいいのですよ。僕が生贄でさとこが助かるなら全然平気なのです。
理科は黙っていなさい。とにかく絶対反対です。あなたにそんな妙なことを吹き込んだ人たちには私が直接会って、理科を変な実験で殺されてたまるものですか。大体理科はフルデ家のたった一人の後継ぎなんですよ。
Yeah, I mean, this is like a really reasonable response. Especially like, I mean, he didn't even talk about experiments, but, and Rita even said herself that the experiments were pretty inhumane. Actually, even Irie and Tatino and everyone said it, so yeah, it's probably some rough stuff, so.
もしものことがあればフルデの血はここで絶えてしまうかもしれないじゃないですか。
It's very hard. I find it like very hard in general to have this the world view of doing stuff for the greater good, especially if it hurts yourself and your family, especially if it extends to your family, right? So yeah, I'm vibing Rita's mom. I know they gave you a name, I literally don't remember it though.
あなたはもっとですね、フルデの家のことを考えていただかないと。
They really should. I do feel like they should just like Keiichi's mom, Keiichi's father. Just give them their names, dude. They have names.
そんなだから村の人たちに日和見主義とかなんとか言われて。
It's not like there's any other Furudes or Maibras around either.
大体おかしいじゃないですか。建設省は村をダムに沈める。
This is a great point.
厚生省は村の病気を治す。何が何だかさっぱりわからないです。
厚生省はこの病気は環境の変化で大変発病しやすいと警告していて、建設庁に対しダム計画を中止するよう働きかけてくれているそうだ。だからお前も研究所を見せてもらいなさい。あれだけの大設備をダム湖に沈むかもしれない土地に建てるわけがない。
Rita let out a big yawn. It was long past bedtime for a little girl like her.
僕はもう寝ますです。父さん、僕はいつでも協力するとその人たちに言っておいてくださいなのです。
リカ、そんなことお母さんに断りなく勝手に決めちゃいけません。リカ、待ちなさい、リカ。
I feel you, Rita's mom. This was pretty interesting though. Huh. I don't know, I don't have much comments except for vibing with Rita's mom. And obviously it turns out bad for them in the end because they die. Especially this one. Because it distrust of mother of a queen, which is Rita's mom, so they might just get freaking K'd by talking now. Anyways, I think that's gonna wrap it up. I mean, it's almost an hour, even though I said it was gonna be shorter, so kind of worked out. Maybe 3 is just the magic number. So what do we got? What's possibly next? I guess we do need the introduction of Satoko, probably. If you want to continue this storyline. wonder what Rita's high fever is. Declaration of war from Kurudo Obishi. I keep forgetting that this is like apparently like all of these are from different fragments, so like even though we're trying to connect them, it doesn't really matter too much since everything else about the fragment is different, so yeah. That's next time we'll start maybe we'll do Satoshi and Satoko and the Hanyu thing. But yeah, good episode, good tech. Think, you know, I guess we can say what's their favorite fragments. I mean, last episode it was the Tomotaki one. In this episode, I want to say it's honestly Irie's background story. I thought that was very fun to read. So yeah, next week we will continue connecting some more fragments. Hopefully you enjoyed this episode, and I will see you then. Bye for now.